Hello everyone, before we begin, I wanted to let the listeners and viewers know that the show was taped right before Rafizi Ramli has resigned from the cabinet. So the first segment of this pod where we talk about PKR election did not take into account this major development. However, the show was still written under the assumption that he will resign soon. So there's not much change and the content remains the same. Please enjoy and I hope you'll like it as usual. Thank you for the support. Hello everyone, welcome to the KC show. We are now into episode 3 and my name is Kenneth Cheng. Welcome back, and whoever is new here, welcome to the KC show again. So today we'll be doing 3 topics, a little bit something different. Probably the length might be a little bit extended, and again, please hit like, subscribe, comment and share. If you have any opinions about the show, feel free to comment, and if you like the show and if you feel like wanting to watching more some of this content, please hit like and subscribe to ensure that it appears on your YouTube feed. So for today we'll talk about the post-2025 PKR election, and this is something that we talked about before the election. So now the results come out. I would like to wrap up a little bit and see what are the things coming for the Parti Keadilan Rakyat after the 2025 election. But first of all, I just would like to say why I think this is a devastating loss to Rafizi Ramli, who is now the former deputy president for PKR, and there will be no excuses for the new deputy president Nurul Izzah right now. And the election after the result, which resulting a loss in Rafizi Ramli, who happens to be in the cabinet of Anwar Ibrahim, it also poses a different challenge to the administration. So just for listeners, a little bit of data is that no surprise here, Nurul Izzah won by a landslide of at least 9,800 votes against Rafizi 3,866 votes. So interestingly, there are only 46% of the 30,000 delegates who have voted. So on Rafizi, it is a devastating loss, a painful loss for Rafizi and his team. You know, he not only lost the deputy presidency, and his team, who is contesting for the 4 vice presidency posts, are only retained by 2. So the Negeri Sembilan Menteri Besar Aminuddin Harun and one of the minister Chan Lee Kang won, but under his team, Manivan and Nik Nazmi lost. So for YB Nik Nazmi, this is definitely a bruising election because he is the Minister of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability. He is expected to retain at least to retain his vice presidency post given his portfolio and his stature within the party, and as a cabinet minister. He lost the VP, and I think probably the hardest loss is actually happened before the central election, is that he also lost the Ketua Cabang in Setiawangsa, which he is the member of parliament, to an individual named Datuk Afdin Shauki Ahsan, who is a PKR member. So it was not just the vice presidency post that Rafizi team suffer losses, because according to my calculation, only 3 central committee members from Rafizi team were elected. So 3 of them is YB Akmal Nasir, YB Lee Chen Chung and YB Said Ibrahim Said Noor. So these 3 people are also member of parliament. In some ways, they had a stature in the party. They are powerful in the party in the sense that they are member of parliament or PKR. So they are sort of likely to be elected. But the most important thing to note is that out of the 20 committee members that Rafizi favors, only 3 of them are elected. This is a complete rejection of, at least from the delegates. At least the party establishment from the delegates do not favor most of the members that Rafizi Ramli favors. So we are now seeing that all in the newspaper and in social media that Rafizi Ramli is now widely expected to resign from the cabinet. And crucially, Anwar perhaps has also softened his stance in the sense that he, just 2 weeks or 1 week ago, he said that he will not be stopping anybody from resigning after the PKR election should they suffer losses within the party. And a lot of people say that he did not resign immediately because he was trying to perform a U-turn, but I take it in a different view, is that because this week we are recording this on 28th of May, the Malaysia government is having an important Asian summit, and as expected, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim is playing host to the Asian Summit, I fear that if there is a resignation happen immediately after the PKR election in this week, it would actually create more trouble to the administration, and it will annoy Anwar Ibrahim, and Anwar Ibrahim would not want to face a resignation in front of the ASEAN country leaders who came to Malaysia for the Asian Summit. So this is in part that Rafizi Ramli trying to not create more trouble to the government for now. But ultimately, go back to the question that should he resign. Any viewers who hasn't watched the previous episode, I already talked about my views on the previous episode that he should not resign. He should just, even if he lost the deputy presidency, which he is now, he should just be staying put and try to implement the policy that he tried to do. At least finish this term and see how it goes, you know. But according to his social media post after his loss, he didn't categorically say that he will resign, but he said that he will take a back seat, which you can always think of it as a sort of prelude to a sign of resignation from the cabinet. He said that taking a back seat from the government would allow him to play the long game and going back to the people to rebuild his support. So he did say that leaving the cabinet would actually give him more time to be nearer to the people during one of his Jelajah previously last week. I just want to emphasize it again, as during my previous episode, there's no need for him to resign, because this was, in some ways, he is rejected by the party, but he's not rejected by the people. And if he does really appreciate the work that he has done, or the work he is doing that hasn't yet finished, he should just continue in his roles as a Minister of Economy. And as I've said in my previous episode, he can do better, and he could always just go back to the attacking and defending analogy that I talked about last week, is that he can always choose to attack the opposition with good policy, with good stories to tell from the government, to good economic indicators, should he perform his role as the Minister of Economy dutifully. And if the people believes that he is doing a good job, he will retain the support outside of the party. And if the support outside of the party is stronger, the party inside would not be blind to the support and to the popularity he gets, and sooner or later they will fall back to him also. So continue the fight and continue the policy work, the important things that he has been doing in the Ministry of Economy, and we'll see how it goes. And should he, for the upcoming next general election, is by his choice, is his choice that whether he wanted to continue to contest. But should he continue to contest, he should be proud of himself if he has any policy achievements which he can show it to the rakyat and say that he has done a good job, and let the rakyat decide. And if it's popular enough, I don't think PKR would be able to stop it, and PKR would, at least from the establishment of the PKR, they will be forced to concede that this is Rafizi Ramli, despite his flaws within the party, is still an asset to the people. It's undeniable that Rafizi Ramli remains a popular and powerful figure in PKR, especially when, this is something that I want to emphasize, especially when the party PKR has little personnel that can talk policy. At least he is someone from PKR that can talk policy. Whether you disagree or agree with his policy is another matter. And the party, frankly, cannot suffer another split if Rafizi Ramli truly, as he said, he is loyal to PKR. PKR is already weakened by Sheraton move and Asmin Ali gangs of 11, the departure of Asmin Ali and his gang of 11. So he commands a considerable support, and there is still a significant number of members that support his cause. So it would be really unwise that if he choose to leave the party or choose to resign from the cabinet, which is not a good signal towards PKR in terms of, if you're talking about unity of the party. So now we move on to Nurul Izzah, the new deputy president of PKR. As you all may know, she has won by a huge mandate, so she has been given the mandate. But at times, if you look at newspaper and if you look at social media and if you look at her interview, she seemed to still be struggling to shake off that nepotism label, despite a lot of goodwills, a lot of support from within the party. This is the thing about party election. Party election might be supporting a certain cause that is unpopular to the public. So there is a significant difference. So you may say that internally the party seems to accept that the father becoming a president and the daughter becoming a deputy president is not nepotism, but the public, the general public, might not necessarily think that way, and this might actually affect their voting behavior in the upcoming general election. The support for her deputy presidency is vindicated within the party, but it has not been tested outside the party. Just as I say, it has not been tested, and people outside might think that this is none other than nepotism. Yeah. So there's something that we can sort of like affirm right now, that PKR, the Anwar's family is in total control of the party PKR. So there is no hiding here if the party underperforms in the Sabah election or the upcoming general election. So Nurul Izzah could prove us all wrong, and she probably can walk out of the shadow of her father and say that if she able to help PKR or to support PKR to be winning more seats in Sabah, or maybe even retain the government and have its majority increase, have its parliamentary seat increase for PKR in the upcoming general election. So she will be solely judged by how she could reform the party and bring the party to greater heights. So before we end on this Nurul Izzah segment, I just wanted to also point out that the delegate system, it does seem to be a bit undemocratic to me. I just want to point this out because, as I've talked about in the previous episode, PKR has moved from a one member, one vote system to a delegate system. And the delegate system seems to be undemocratic as compared to the one member, one vote system. And perhaps this delegate system favors the establishment, which in this case is Nurul Izzah, and also masks the unpopularity of Nurul Izzah. Why would I say that? Is that, as I've said in the first few minutes of this episode, is that only 9,800 out of the 30,000 delegates voted for Nurul Izzah. So it's less than half of the delegates. And most importantly, only 46% of the delegates voted in this PKR election. Where is the rest of the 54% of the delegates? And you may say that why Rafizi Ramli couldn't mobilize the extra 54%, which may sway to his favor and which may potentially reverse the election results and make him, and he himself is able to retain the deputy president. But this is just a side topic. I've been talking too much of this. Is that basically the whole point is that 30,000 delegates are eligible to vote, but only less than 10,000 have voted. So this is frankly a bit it's frankly not representative, and it also perhaps masks some of the deficiency within the party, as I would say. I just wanted to note that these PKR elections also have massive ramifications for the Anwar Ibrahim government, and as you all know, PKR right now is part of the coalition government, and its president Anwar Ibrahim is the prime minister. So going back to Rafizi, should he choose to resign, and he will be more or less most likely to resign after the conclusion of ASEAN summit. The million-dollar question here is that who will be the person to fill in the void left by him? Amiruddin, the current Selangor Menteri Besar, who garnered the highest votes in the vice presidency in PKR, could replace Rafizi, but that also brings in another question that his Selangor Menteri Besar position will be vacant. So who is replacing Amiruddin in the Selangor Menteri Besar post? Should he be promoted to a federal minister level or effectively replacing Rafizi Ramli as the Minister of Economy? Some may say that the Negeri Sembilan Menteri Besar Aminuddin Harun could be a potential candidate, but I strongly believe that his chances are lower because he is frankly from the Rafizi's camp. But setting aside all these potential scenarios, I'm just laying it out, all these potential scenarios, and just for viewers to decide what could potentially happen, is that both promotions also need to take into account who will be the successor of the Menteri Besar in their respective states, both Selangor and Negeri Sembilan. And we go back to the problem of PKR lack of talent, is that as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any viable candidates, at least from the State Assembly of Negeri Sembilan and Selangor, would able to replace both the Menteri Besar should one of them get promoted. Who knows? Nurul Izzah might be the one to replace Amiruddin or Aminuddin as the Negeri Sembilan or Selangor Menteri Besar. But I fear that this would be very unlikely, and this is frankly would be politicking to another level that even Anwar Ibrahim himself would be able to smell that this would not sit well with the people, because Nurul Izzah has been contesting in Lembah Pandai seat, which is technically a federal territory KL seat, and she has no presence in Selangor. So it will be a hard deal. It will be incredibly difficult to actually convince Selangorians to support Nurul Izzah as the Selangor Menteri Besar. And what's more, if that is something that goes into the mind of Anwar Ibrahim, he would actually need to ask someone to resign his seat and basically create a by-election for Nurul Izzah to be elected as the Adun for Selangor. Then she only can be the Menteri Besar of Selangor. So that looks very unlikely. That looks very far-fetched. But I want to point this out is because this is PKR. They have their own history of Kaja move, of Pok Dixon move, and I would still be surprised if it's that happened. But think about it deeply, it will not be surprise, you know, because this kind of pure politicking and this kind of pure move of trying to create to create seats, to create positions for people that Anwar favors, is something that PKR particularly adept at doing it. I also wanted to talk about there will be another shuffle. If there is a reshuffle, if the reshuffle for Rafizi happens, you think it might end there, but by the year end, by December 2025, Anwar would have another mini shuffle where Tengku Safrul, the current MITI minister, would need to be replaced after his second term in Dewan Negara expires by December 2025. I just want to point out that it's very unusual to have so many reshuffle. Lest we forget that Anwar has already one of his big reshuffle last year. So this is pretty unusual. You may argue that Tengku Safrul mini reshuffle is unavoidable given that he couldn't win a parliamentary seat, so he was only able to become a minister because of his because being a Senate in Dewan Negara. But the Rafizi Ramli one is totally avoidable. It could be mitigated if there is better party management from PKR, or in particular from Anwar Ibrahim. So that's what I'm going to say about the post-PKR election for 2025. We'll continue to monitor this and we'll continue to bring you updates. And if you like this thing, please continue to hit like and subscribe, and we'll come back after this. Hello everyone, welcome to the second segment, and we'll talk about the case of Teoh Beng Hock. And I argue that why should the DAP minister resign because of the recent recent development of the Teoh Beng Hock case. Just to give a little bit of context to listener and viewers, is that on 22nd of May, the investigation into the death of Teoh Beng Hock led to the police and Attorney General to conclude no further action. Their reason being that police obtained insufficient evidence to prosecute the involved MACC officer. I believe that this is a betrayal, ultimate betrayal to the family of Teoh Beng Hock's family, especially now DAP is sitting in Putrajaya. So a lot of people might ask, what's the hoo-ha about Teoh Beng Hock? What is the big deal about Teoh Beng Hock? You know, so for starters, I just want to give the context, then I'll give in the reason why DAP ministers has a moral responsibility to resign and owns a lot to the Teoh Beng Hock's family. You know. So for starters, Teoh Beng Hock is a former journalist turned to a political assistant to former Selangor Executive Councillor, Selangor Exco YB Yang Hanhua. So he died. Unfortunately, Teoh Beng Hock died after being held for questioning overnight at the then Selangor MACC office in Shah Alam on 16th of July 2009. So this has been more than 15 years. He was called, actually the reason why he was in MACC office in the first place is that he was called to provide information. So he was only asked to assist in the case. He's not being detained nor he's being charged. He was called to provide information on 15 July, one day before his death, but was found dead outside of the Plaza Masalam. So some of you older viewers and listeners may be able to recall this tragic episode, and some of the younger viewers is that, yeah, something like that did happen. There was someone who is a political aide to a politician died outside of MACC building. Till date, this is most important, there is no convincing explanation surrounding his death, and no one in MACC, most importantly, no one in MACC was charged nor culpable for his death. So a lot of people might say that probably Teoh Beng Hock was committed suicide. So a lot of people who is quick to defend MACC is that he committed suicide. He probably felt that he was scared to death. He did something wrong. He was summoned to Plaza Masalam in Shah Alam. He had second thoughts. Then he chose to commit suicide. So these are frankly not true. These are something that I strongly believe that this is something that has been proven by a lot of the authoritative body to be untrue. And let me tell you why. So in July 2011, after 2 years, there is a Royal Commission of Inquiry that investigated this incident, this tragic death in custody for Teoh Beng Hock. So the Royal Commission of Inquiry, although concluded that his death was a suicide, however, this is a big however that people needs to look at it clearly, is that they conclude that, the RCI conclude that there was a foul play during the questioning, and also concluded that aggressive interrogation method were used to coerce and disorient Teoh Beng Hock. So even if there is a suicide attempt, let's just give MACC all the benefit of the doubt in the world, is that MACC hands in this tragic case were not clean. According to RCI, they used aggressive interrogation method to try to coerce, to force Teoh Beng Hock to act against his will, and there was a lot of foul play. So if anyone is interested in the RCI, I urge everyone to give it a read, and probably if there is sufficient demand, I would want to do a long explainer on this. Just comment if you like for me to do all this, because I studied the RCI paper before when I was helping out on the family on some of the movement for demand for justice for Teoh Beng Hock. So let's say if you don't buy the Royal Commission of Inquiry, the findings from the Royal Commission of Inquiry solely is just suicide, there was no MACC foul play or anything. In September 2014, after 5 years after the death of Teoh Beng Hock, the Court of Appeal just below the Federal Court, ruled that Teoh's death from the fall, he fall from the Plaza Masalam, the fall was caused by an unlawful act or acts by unknown individuals. He fell from MACC building. The unknown individuals in this case are definitely some people from MACC. This is perhaps the strongest argument, I would say, produced by an authoritative body, our judicial body, that points to the blame behind this tragedy entirely on MACC. So the judiciary has spoken, but after 25 years, there has been no action, and this is all the more disappointing, I would have to say, under the government, especially led by Mahathir Mohamad, the PH 1.0 from 2018 to 2020, and the Madani government till date, of which DAP is sitting in Putrajaya right now. Because why? Why should we direct all our anger and frustration towards DAP? And let me give you the reason why. It's because DAP has constantly extracted so much political capital from the death of Teoh Beng Hock, because he is the political aide to a DAP politician, but incessantly campaigning about the death of Teoh Beng Hock, saying that if they are in power, they will restore justice to Teoh Beng Hock, they will hold the perpetrators accountable, and at endless campaigns. I personally witnessed it, and if you go to any Chinese political campaigns, they will repeat ad nauseum about the death of Teoh Beng Hock, trying to basically trying to gain political capital from this incident. And it is not wrong to actually campaign for the death in custody of an individual, but provided that you act on it if you are given power. All the 5 full ministers, and here I need to name names, is that YB Anthony Loke, YB Hannah Yeoh, YB R. Koming, YB Steven Singh, and YB Gobind Singh had all in equal measures and all in different stages of their political career say that they will seek justice for Teoh Beng Hock and ensure that perpetrators are held accountable once they are in power. What's the change now? They are in power. And why is this not act upon it, and why there is a deafening silence about it when the police says that there is an NFA, when the evidence, the findings from RCI and even the judgment from Court of Appeal has made it undisputedly clear that the death of Teoh Beng Hock are caused by individuals, particularly MACC. In their attempt to hide their powerlessness in front of this grave injustice, they talk about actually right now they can't do anything, they are being resisted by the deep state and bureaucracy. And if that is the case, why were they attacking MCA and Gerakan incessantly previously for failing to fight for Teoh Beng Hock? So aren't they doing the exact same thing right now by staying silent like MCA back in those days? This is perhaps the double standards. A lot of promised reforms that has been reversed, and all this I need to direct my frustration and anger towards DAP, because as I've said again and again, DAP has no qualms of using the death of Teoh Beng Hock to attain power, to get political power, and they extracted political capital from the death of an individual, from a party member himself, because Teoh Beng Hock is a party member of DAP. So this double standard basically just make Malaysians felt politics in Malaysia is just a game for the elites and powerful, and frankly there's no accountability, because at least a detailed investigation need to be laid out. And in any case, just again the benefit of the doubt for the whole world is that if MACC were to be blameless, were to be innocent in this whole tragedy, at least there must be a report, or there must be findings that help to substantiate it and refute whatever that has been said under the RCI and the judgment of the Court of Appeal. So this is something that is incredibly disappointing, and this is something that I need to spoke critically against DAP for failing to honor this, because this is not your janji dicapati, your broken promises or your things like that, because you campaign on the death of an individual and you didn't honor that. In normal democracies, people will be kicked out of power because of that. So, and again, constantly blaming MCA and Gerakan at that time under the Najib government for failing to prosecute anybody from MACC, which they are essentially doing the same thing by staying silent and just talk about the good things did by the government, not the bad things, and not the things that they promise that they do, but they are not doing it right now. And whatever, again, in defense of MCA, whatever you want to say about MCA already paid the price. They paid the price for failing to do the right thing for Teoh Beng Hock. They were kicked out of power along with Barisan Nasional in 2018. And they have no cabinet ministers right now. In federal government, they have no presence there. So what do you expect them to do? They have paid the price. And so, as Malaysians, if you are incensed or if you are angry about this injustice against Teoh Beng Hock, we all should continue to campaign, direct our frustration and anger towards DAP, and especially if your local elected representatives are DAP, call them, email them, bombard them with WhatsApp messages and tell them what are your stance on Teoh Beng Hock. What did you say about Teoh Beng Hock previously in your opposition days, and are you doing anything to honor that promise? And most of all, DAP campaigned hard for it, and yet they are being rewarded. Yeah, they are being rewarded for sitting in Putrajaya right now. They have the levers of executive power right now. But unfortunately, the late Teoh Beng Hock's family, who previously believed in what DAP have said, are still left to grieve after more than 15 years. So right now, there is this argument is that the Teoh Beng Hock movement is now coming to a political cul-de-sac. There is a dead end right now. So the government right now has said that it is an NFA, and if we continue to pretend and extend it, the public, the politicians, the powerful politicians all keep pretending and extending, this will just lead to nowhere, and slowly people will forget about who is Teoh Beng Hock. And so I thought of it that the only way to pressure the administration right now is for DAP to resign, for DAP full minister, the 5 full ministers to resign as a sign of protest against the NFA. Why should I say that is that? Because first of all, this should be a resigning matter. If DAP is as principled as they claim to be, they talk about wanting to deliver justice to Teoh Beng Hock. They would say that they want to hold the perpetrators accountable. This is frankly a promise broken, a promise where you cannot get out of it. It's either no justice or no justice or wanting justice. This is a binary thing, and since there is no effort in advancing towards Teoh Beng Hock case, to me it's a resigning matter, because it is a promise to your electors, and you have effectively U-turned on it. You have effectively broken that promise. Again, since the case now is NFA, since the case now is NFA, we have not heard from the cabinet, from the DAP ministers, aside from 2 conscientious DAP MPs, other than the 2 conscientious DAP members. Nobody spoke out against this. Nobody give their stance whether they support the police NFA stance. So to me, a resignation is also strategically important for DAP, is because they were able to set themselves apart, in that sense that they make their principles clear, is that they publicly disagree with the NFA decision, and their continuous silence, I should warn, it will only mean that they agree that Teoh Beng Hock has committed suicide, as the investigation from the police suggests. So if this continued silence, should be allowed to continue, we should direct the DAP ministers and say that you ultimately go against what you all have been spoken for the past 15 years, is that you now believe that Teoh Beng Hock committed suicide. It's strategically important also to me, as someone that I thought about this for quite a while, is that a resignation will also force the government, especially the Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, to face down this matter. Say that if one of the ministers resign from the position, Anwar Ibrahim, the Prime Minister, will bound to be asked about this question, and he has to face down this matter. He has to face the public on this matter, and he is forced to answer awkward questions. Precisely, we need to force Anwar Ibrahim to answer awkward questions about the case of Teoh Beng Hock, because he promised that there will be a detailed investigation, there will be an impartial investigation, free of interference, and yet again, I need to mention this, is that the findings from RCI, the judgment of Court of Appeal, has made it clear that it is an act that caused by individuals for the death of Teoh Beng Hock. So finally, I just would like to end this, is that the death of Teoh Beng Hock is never an easy issue. I understand that it's never an easy issue to solve, and the idea of a deep state resisting it may be true. But equally, we cannot forget that Teoh Beng Hock, the case of Teoh Beng Hock, the death of Teoh Beng Hock, is also a stain in Malaysia's political history that Malaysia would need to face up sooner or later. We can just keep lying to ourselves, but the country will never ever be better if she does not face up to its past mistakes. So before I end on the segment on Teoh Beng Hock, I just wanted to urge DAP ministers, DAP ordinary members, DAP legislators to stand and be counted for. If you sincerely believe that this is never, and this case should not amount to an NFA, stand up and be counted for. Resign, do something out of principle, pressure the government. The power lies in your hands now. You can do more than that. Don't be sorry, DAP, be better. Hello, welcome to this bonus segment of the KC show. Initially, I have plans to do something different about this, an occasion to be more joyful, because for viewers and listeners who doesn't watch football, my favorite team, Liverpool FC, won its 20th English title. This was supposed to be a tribute, to be something that give thanks to Liverpool, congratulate Liverpool, and in some ways pay tribute to my football manager idol, Jurgen Klopp, who has given so much to Liverpool Football Club. And I want to give thanks to him, but it was marred. It was marred by a car ramming incident, because on 26th of May, Liverpool Football Club, to celebrate winning their 20th English title, they had a town parade, but unfortunately for viewers and listeners, a car collided with pedestrians in the city centre in Water Street, if I'm not mistaken, leaving nearly 50 people injured. Thank God there are no fatalities, but those 50 people injured include children, and some are seriously ill and still, as to this date, still in hospital. It needs to be said that the police have concluded that it is not a terror attack. A 53-year-old white British man was arrested. So, Prime Minister of United Kingdom Keir Starmer said that the scenes were appalling, while Liverpool Football Club offer its thoughts and prayers to those affected by the incident. So, I wanted to do something cheerful. I wanted to just talk about my love for Liverpool Football Club and give thanks to Jurgen Klopp, but honestly, it was not a good position right now to talk about this, because that town parade was meant to be an occasion of joy. It would turn to horror, but still, I would like to congratulate Liverpool FC for winning the title, and the tribute for Jurgen Klopp could wait. But still, I wanted to do this here is to, my prayers and thoughts are to the family who are affected. Liverpool as a city is stronger. I know better because I support Liverpool and I understand how the city works, and this is a city in terms of football that have gone through the Hazel disaster, the Hillsborough disaster, and even we winning the title in the COVID years brought so much struggle and things like that. And I'm sure we can move on from this, but for right now, I just want to say my prayers and my thoughts are with the family who are either injured or affected, and you never walk alone. Thank you, everyone. That's the end of the KC show for this week, and we'll see you next week. And again, if you're a fan of this content and if you would be curious to know more about my thoughts on social international affairs, please don't hesitate to hit like, subscribe. And if you have any comment, have any suggestion of the show and how it can be done better, or even specific topics that you want to tackle, feel free to leave a comment on the comment section, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.